What's up, guys? My name is Chauncey Upshur. I'm a graduating senior computer science minor from Laurel, Maryland, the real DMV.
Y'all know me. My name is Amanda Harvey. I'm a junior cellular molecular biology major from Warwick, New Jersey, and I am one of your co-hosts.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy, Christopher Small, graduating senior electrical engineering major from Jacksonville, Florida. And together we are Applicable Science Podcast.
And we got special guests in the building.
Special guests in the building. Well, you know, we're not really in the building, but we're in a video.
Y'all get the vibes. Y'all get the vibes.
You know the vibes. You know the vibes we're dealing with. We got Ikenna. Nwagbara. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to mention your name. Because that end definitely gets me.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
We're back again. He came back from another episode. He wanted more. He was in the last previous episode with the park car conversation. Federal Reserve, not federal, no reserve.
Check it out.
But
that episode sounds interesting, doesn't it? Yes, it does.
Today, we are on a new topic. We are talking about KCL and KVL. Chris, do me honors. What is KCL?
KCL. So the abbreviated term, Kirchhoff's current law.
Who was a German physicist? Just throwing it out there.
Okay. Some little history about him. German physicist. That's a basic principle in electrical engineering and one of the principles that you learn in physics. Basically, in a circuit, so a circuit is with electronic components, with a power source, at least another component with a resistor, capacitor, inductor, different things that you would see inside of a computer, phone, anything that needs a power source and you can play with pretty much. So those pretty much, he found a law where you can manipulate the different arrangements of those components and design different applications for it. So KVL is basically a parallel path that the total current, so the current is the flow of electrons inside of the circuit, entering circuits junction, so different nodes, so different entry points where the current comes together.
Remind me, Chris, what is a node?
A node, so different points where current or voltages come together and they add or subtract. So basically, KVL is the parallel path, the total current entering circuits junction is exactly equal to the total current leaving the same junction. So in simple terms, the amount of current that's coming into one node is the total sum of the current that's leaving the same node, or the difference if it's a total current, one current coming to a node and it's split into two different paths.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So all the current that comes in, the same total comes out.
So I took physics, and when I think of circuits and things like that, I think of Ohm's law, which is V equals I R.
Yeah, voltage equals current times resistance.
Yes. So what is the difference between because I know they say Ohm's law is the basic principle,
yes,
and then Kirchhoff's made this other principle for circuits that allows for more complicated circuits. That's what I took from it. So, so what helps? How does it help with complex circuits compared to just basic circuits?
So as it says, like, it's a law. So it's a principle he researched, found that.
So like, think of.
Go ahead, Chauncey. All
right, so think of it as a basic structure, for example, right? So if we're gonna go into lamer terms, let's think of addition, okay? We all know what addition is, but without addition, you can't use subtraction you can't use subtraction or multiplication. Or my fault, addition and multiplication. Addition is the same thing as multiplication, but multiplication is it's a complex version of addition, right? Because, for example, if I want to do 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, I can always do 1 times 4, and it'll give me the same answer. But if you don't know addition, then you won't be able to understand multiplication to its full extent. We could say the same thing about KCL and KVL. When we're doing complex circuits, we had to have the basic understanding of what the basic understanding of KCL, KVL. Because if we don't do that, then we can't use like different methods to find the total voltage of a circuit or the total current of a loop. So if without that, you won't be able to use like, because we do analysis, and one of it is called nodal analysis. And using nodal analysis is basically nodal analysis is basically evaluating at a certain node and of the whole circuit. So the different nodes, and we have to evaluate at that position. That's what basic nodal analysis is. And then there's a mesh analysis where we basically evaluate at a current loop. So it's basically like the building blocks. If you don't understand the basics, then you won't be able to understand complex things like that. Anything to add, Chris or Ikenna?
No, you basically put it up, bro.
Yeah, for the viewers and the listeners, I want to say thank you for viewing. Thank you for listening to our podcast. Greatly appreciate it. If you didn't already watch our previous episodes or listen to it, do that as well. Content is coming right at you. But one thing we didn't explain, KVL, Kirchhoff's voltage law, focusing on voltage. In the closed loop, the definition, closed loop network where the total voltage around the loop is equal to the sum of all voltage that within equals 0. So just imagine 2 squares. There's a resistor in between. The voltages will all equal 0. The voltages will all be accounted for at the end. So it's both of them pretty much refer back to the law of conservation of energy, just with a circuit perspective on it.
Interesting. So, as an electrical engineer, how do you think, or how would you use this for, say, in like a lab or whatever field that you want to go into as an engineer?
Well, I mean, you do have to. This is the law. Like unless it's going to be debunked in a couple of, I don't know when it'll be debunked, but this is an actual principle that's been studied, researched, and found is the law. But you have to account for this law, both of the laws, when you're designing circuits. If you don't apply it professionally or with the ethics, you're gonna make a device that malfunctions, potentially harming people, harming the environment, doing all sorts of things that you didn't design it to be. So it's one of the first things that you learn in circuits class, circuits 1, DC circuits, however your institution or class is named. This is one of the basic principles.
And just one quick question. So I know there's DC and AC. Is this law both applicable to both DC and AC?
Yes. So you learn this on DC because it's much easier to calculate and use, because DC doesn't have an imaginary part that's component for the listeners and viewers, imaginary and real numbers. If you haven't already know that, that's a real thing in engineering, especially in STEM subjects and majors. Just do more information on that, real and imaginary. But yeah, we do it in DC first, just to get our feet wet, get thrown to the fire, see who can handle it, learn the concepts, and then we apply the AC when we have to factor in real and imaginary numbers, frequency, and omega. So yeah.
I was really gonna say, like, the difference between like DC and AC is like time, right? So
Yeah.
like, DC is like without time. It's in like time of 0. So like it's just what happens instantly. But when you apply Kirchhoff's current law to AC circuits, you're accounting for like the change over time. Like how does that the voltage or the current change, increase or decrease over like X amount of time. So like infinity is usually the metric that I use. So like over infinity, what is happening with the current?
Yeah. If you want to, listeners, if you want to think about it in a physical form, think of DC as a lake, a motionless lake. is there, and you could think of AC as a beach. Just to put it in context, the difference of the two. They both serve the same purpose, but it's just different applications for it.
Or, okay, so you see this, right?
Okay.
As it stands still, it is DC. But once I jiggle it around and it's like continuing motion, it will become AC. Because it's like moving and it's time variance. That's the simplest way I can describe it.
You
Oh,
even
like,
get it in terms of like this entire like video conference that we're on right now. Like there's electric circuits in our computers, in you guys' microphones, and there's voltage and current being transferred through them. So like for however long our computers are on, like how does the voltage and current change within our computers depending on how long we're on the computers?
Yeah. Fair enough.
so how does this relate to life? Tati, would you like to introduce?
So I think of KCL. So like we say, KCL is a total current coming in will equal to total current coming out. So what I relate that is to karma. A lot of people think a lot of people have some type of belief of karma. Sometimes people think it's karma. Sometimes think it's God. It's right. It depends on the person you ask. Now, what I think is like I can relate that to karma because the philosophy behind karma is if whatever good thing you do, whatever bad thing you do, or like whatever good thing you do, like that is selfish or something negative is going to come back at you and it's going to hit you. Versus like also if you're doing something like, not beneficial to yourself but beneficial to somebody else, then something good is going to come back to you and it's going to benefit you. So I relate that because as we described in the definition, the equal amount coming in is going to be equal amount coming out. So if you do good to somebody, they're going to do good to you. But if you do bad to somebody, then that same effect is going to be bad onto you.
Yeah, you put negative energy into the world, you definitely gonna have some negative consequences coming right back at you. I think of KCL as the split between two different fates or two different life spans, I guess, or life two different lives, I guess, two different realities. So you have current coming in one node. So you would be the current in this situation. The node would be a life altering decision. So maybe something like if you went to college or if you just stayed home or something of that effect. If you joined the military or you made your own business, anything that would be a major decision, and you have the split of two different paths. But you could also represent that with another person. So maybe somebody that's in the same environment as you, same community. You're both doing the same thing, going to school. It's probably maybe your homeboy or your homegirl. Y'all doing the same thing, grew up together, same hoopla. You go to one direction, you end up graduation. One of y'all go to college and becomes a lawyer. The other one stays and becomes a hairdresser. But at the end of the day, you're still helping the community, you're still putting money into the economy, you're still living the same thing. It's just two different paths. You're still converging towards the same destination.
And there's no saying one direction is better than the other, but there is a weight of your decisions, and decisions often direct which path that you might take. So say if you're at a node and it's going this way or that way, it's all depending on decisions, fate, or even how Chanti was saying karma. So one thing this all reminds me of, like connecting both Chris and Chauncey, is I think A Christmas Story with Scrooge and how they brought him back and they showed him the weight of his decisions.
Yeah.
And how if he were to change his way of life or way of thinking, how his decisions should go one way or the other. So that kind of shows me how you can go one path or the other based off just life and how you are in society.
Well, in circuits, if you have a resistor, the current wants to go the path of least resistance. So therefore, whatever the easiest path to get to, that's where the current is probably going to go to. Now, if you're a resilient person, you're going to fight. You're going to fight the resistance. You're going to persevere. You're going to get through it. You're going to get through the mud, go through the trials and tribulations, go over the hurdles, whatever it may be to get to the end result. But in circuitry, that's just not how the current wants to live his life. He want to be easy breezy, lemon squeezy, and get to the final destination, whatever the path is. But when you said that about the Christmas story, that brought me to the episode of Martin, where Martin was the Christmas holiday episode where Martin didn't really buy Christmas presents for any of his friends or anything like that. He bought presents for himself. He bought himself a new pair of J's. He went to sleep on the couch while all his friends went to the bar and had a Christmas celebration there. He slept on the couch for a hot minute, kind of was like in a coma or something. And the whole episode was him just think about the different paths that led him to that event, because he didn't, as a youngin', he got his shoes taken away. So that made him more craving the Jordans and not really caring about Christmas presents because somebody stole it on his Christmas day. And then, I think it was PF Flyers or something like that. And then present day, how people affected him if he wasn't there, how he would be looked at, how people actually viewed him in their eyes. And in the future, if he kept going with it, how lonely he would be, how nobody really cared about him, nobody will care for him. So it's just different paths. So yeah.
And one thing you mentioned about resistance, I feel like a lot of people in society, they go with what's easy or what's familiar with them. That's like how voltages, that's how a lot of people are. They don't want to test the waters. They don't want to branch into something new or something that's hard, because honestly, would you rather have a day where you're relaxing, or would you rather have a day where you're jam-packed with work? I feel like I want to relax. I want to.
You gonna relax? Of course you want to.
But yeah, but as society, I feel like people need to push themselves, and that's why they call Americans lazy, because we go with we're lazy. So a lot of people aren't hungry for what's hard or what's going to push themselves. So I feel that the ones who do push themselves go with the path of resistance. And so just relating that back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you have any regrets?
Me? No, I don't have any regrets, actually. I feel like regrets are figments of our imagination. Like, you can make essentially anything in your past a regret, just if you choose to regret it or not. So I choose not to regret anything, because all those decisions led me to where I am now. And if I changed anything, even in the slightest, like, have you guys heard of the butterfly effect, or like anything like the?
I did hear it. I did listen to the Travis Scott song.
Hey, so for those who don't know, the butterfly effect is basically like a theory about how if a butterfly flaps its wings in Japan, it can cause a tornado in California. So just how it's speaking on the sensitivities of every decision and every cause and every effect, and how one change can affect a grand change. And they also related it to, like, say a ship in the ocean, right? Say they have a destination that they're trying to get to. They have a path that they're trying to take. And if they were to incrementally change their longitude or latitude by a centimeter, an inch, if you compound that, they would eventually find themselves way off from their initial direction, just from that initial change in direction.
Yo, that reminds me of space. Like, if you launch in space, if your trajectory, when they're doing the calculations on Earth, if your trajectories are off by like 0.000.1, that has a monumental effect on your destination or where you're trying to go.
Oh, I thought you said spades.
No, but you do. Yeah, if you renege, if you put a spade down, or you put a spade down instead of a hearts, when you know you got hearts in your hand, you gonna have a decision to come up with. You gonna have a consequence waiting on you after the game.
That
It
consequence
depends.
is
It depends when they can catch it.
you finna catch these hands.
Oh, my fault, Ikenna. What were you saying?
It's just that how like yeah, I don't regret anything because every decision, how big or small, led me to where I am right now. And if you think about it, like this gets really like crazy. But if you think about it in terms of like time and space, right? Like if you there's no such thing as time, right? Like the only thing that exists is a continuous present. Like we're always living in the present continuously, past, present, and future. So you could essentially say that the past, present, and future all exist within the same infinitesimal point of present, which is now. And every decision I made in my past, I chose that decision. So I'm choosing my destiny as it unfolds to get to where I am now. So if I were to regret any of those choices, and essentially, if I were to theoretically go back and change anything, I wouldn't be where I am now. Who knows where I'd be? So it brings a gratitude and to myself, knowing that like I'm the grand designer of my own destiny. I'm choosing myself where I want to go, how I feel every present moment, and I'm manifesting whatever I want into reality in the present moment because the future, past, and present are all right now.
Yeah, that reminds. Well, that's kind of related to one of our old episodes,
Yes.
gravity,
Yes.
and we talked about faith and the weight of our decisions.
I'll
So
send that episode.
yes, go watch. But that in that episode, I stated how the life decisions that I made, like you said, I wouldn't have ended up at even Hampton, or I might not even have been a biology major, or just I might have been literally anywhere. I wouldn't even know. But yeah, the gravity or the weight that our decisions have, or they might seem minimal, like even what you eat today, or say if you went to a restaurant, you come into contact with somebody, they're a reference for you for somewhere else. Like you don't, places you go, things you do, people you interact with, it's all interconnected.
Like even like the smallest thing, like you waking up and choosing to make your bed in the morning. That decision alone could be the sole proprietor of you being like a billionaire or something like that. Like something crazy along those lines. Like you don't know how big or small an impact any decision in your life has on the future. So it's like it's very interesting to think about, and the fact that you were literally creating everything in the present moment for your present and past and future self, and the fact that like anything affects anything. Like there's no such thing as cause without effect. You can essentially say like cause and effect are the same thing because you're constantly causing and you're constantly seeing the effect of something that you caused all in the present.
So I think I already know your answer, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. And this poses a question for the group. If we develop time travel, would you go?
Well, I don't think time travel exists. Actually, I do and I don't.
Let's just pretend.
No, I am. I'm about to answer your question.
It depends. It depends on what time travel are we talking about. Are we talking about?
Yeah, you gotta think about it.
Are we talking about in-game time travel? Or are we talking about Back to the Future time travel, where one has in Back to the Future has the time travel where you can affect the future present, I guess, or
Let's talk about time travel.
in-game where the time travel is you're always in the present form, I guess.
So like it's actually interesting. So like, time travel has like a whole bunch of complexities with it, right? So like if you let's talk about it. So time travel, right? Say I wanted to go back to 1950 for whatever reason, right? That would mean that
Okay.
the present that I'm in right now, I want to go back to 1950. So that means 1950 is my future, and
Yes.
the
Yeah.
present is my past. And now, if I were to go and affect something in 1950, because that's my future, I didn't affect anything in the past. Or you could think about it in the way of maybe that was the past that I was traveling into. And if I affect something, I'm creating an alternate branch of universe to now traverse down. So essentially, there's no such thing as time travel. There's a thing of interdimensional travel where you're literally just jumping from dimension to dimension. And mind you, like there's multiple dimensions other than the third dimension. Like there's infinite dimensions. So if I were to go
But is that
into
really
another
the truth,
dimension,
though?
I'm essentially seeing the effects of that dimension and not the one that I had previously left. And now you got to think about it. Now the dimension that I left, how is that going to be affected? Now I'm not in that dimension anymore. So whatever causes and effects that I would have caused isn't going to happen anymore. Now branching off into another separate dimension. And then you can think about it in terms of like black holes and disrupting the fabric of space-time itself. Because if you're changing dimensions, you're crossing interdimensionally. You're literally like we're not even able to perceive what that is because it operates like above the third dimension, which is like 3D space and time, right? So like if you're really if we were to travel, like I wouldn't travel back in time just for the fact of like I'm not fully understanding of how that affects my future or past or whatever. And who knows how that even works, because you can't necessarily say that. You can't even do anything. You'd be at the mercy of whatever you're subjecting yourself to. So you don't know what's going to happen. So I wouldn't do it solely for the fact that I don't have enough knowledge for it.
You never know.
There is two forms of time travel. My fault, Chauncey. There is two forms of time travel. Just to put it out there, it's the one where you can go back in time, like everybody wants to do, apparently, or besides Ikenna. And then you have the form where you can go to almost the speed of light and never age, but everyone else that's in a different that's traveling
So
at a different acceleration, they get older and older. So you can essentially
that's like
time travel in forward, but not backwards.
That's like saying like, okay, so like if you watch comic books and you know the Flash, like the Flash's powers is based on the Speed Force, and we know from like literally just physics, the faster you move, the slower things. Okay, so like say I'm in a train. Yeah, so say I'm in a train and I'm looking out the window, looking at you standing on the other side. Like you'd see me for like a split second, and I'd see you for like a split second. But if we were both on that same train, we're both moving at constant speed, but we both see each other in the same amount of like in constant. So like I'm not using the correct words, but basically like that difference is the change in speed and time. So like and the thing is, time is just like distance. No, speed is just distance over time. So like if I'm moving at a certain speed relative to something else, they're essentially moving slower in time compared to me. So like we're time traveling, but it's not in that fictional fantasized way, like TV way. It's more scientific. Like we're essentially
it's forward, not backwards.
Constantly. Yeah, true. Like we're constantly traversing through time because it's a continuous present. So you can say we're time traveling right now. So like it's all dependent on like how you're observing it and your subjective experience with it. So like it gets very complex. I can say that, but like the complexities of it, like I was saying before, exist outside of the third dimension. Like there's millions and billions of dimensions that exist that our brains aren't built to perceive. Like our beingness in this 3D existence wasn't built for that experience. So yeah,
I guess. I mean, that makes sense. It all depends on how you like. It all depends on how, like you said, depends on how you phrase it or how you believe in time travel.
I mean, you don't have to believe in it. Like it's there. It's just like I wouldn't even call it time travel at that point. I would just call it interdimensional travel, because like time is just another one of those dimensions. If you think about it, like if you were to say that time exists, you'd have to put it in a category of dimensionality, and it operates in its own dimension. So you'd essentially be traveling interdimensionality. So time travel is just dimensional travel.
Amanda and Chris, any thoughts?
Well, I feel like the only time travel I know is from Back to the Future and movies. But I do think, like Ikenna said, it's possible in that way. I feel as though the more fictitious time travel and how they put it isn't exactly real, but I feel like time travel is possible in some sort of way. And I think that's also due with like how Ikenna said with speed and traveling over a certain time.
And there'd be a lot of like philosophical and ethical like complications with it. Like say, let's take this example, right? Say, have you ever heard of the grandfather clause?
Yeah, yeah. Or it's like the paradox or something.
Yeah, the grandfather paradox. If I were to go back in time and kill my grandfather,
Would I
that
be
means my
born?
grandfather wouldn't be born, well, wouldn't be alive to have my mom or my dad, whatever, and then they wouldn't be allowed to have me. Therefore, I wouldn't be born. Therefore, I wouldn't be able to go back in time and kill my grandfather.
Oh, shameless
So,
plug. Shameless plug. That it just hit me like a bus. See you yesterday on Netflix. The description of the movie will be, or the link to the movie will be in the description below. Fun fact: the lead actor, she is a Hampton University physics major.
oh, that's tough.
So, and it's a
What movie
Spike
was
Lee.
it?
It's a Spike Lee joint. I forgot the individual's name. It'll be in the
That's
description below.
tough.
But yeah,
It's tough.
Hampton, alum or Hampton student doing Netflix specials. But continue.
Yeah. So that whole paradox itself is like a whole complication because if I were to go back and kill my grandpa, he wouldn't have my parents wouldn't have me, therefore I wouldn't be able to go back and kill my grandfather, therefore my grandfather would be alive to have my parents to have me, but then I would be able to go back and kill my grandfather, and then it just continues in that endless loop, the infinite loop, like literally at limbo, like it's
Like
stuck.
like Project Almanac, another movie that me and Chauncey and our friend Larry saw.
That movie was one of the best movies I ever watched.
Too bad he never really got the girl like that. Well, it is what it is.
Oh, I've seen
Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
He got the girl?
Yeah, he got the girl.
Oh, because he went back a third time. Yeah. My fault.
Nah, he went back the second time. He was like, you know what? I'm gonna take this shot. And then because there was that Lollapalooza, and there was like,
Okay.
rude for the people.
huh?
It's just one. Well, it's been out for 5 years. If you haven't seen it, I can't. I'm not about to hold back.
I'm not. We're not gonna ruin it for you, but it's a good movie to watch. I'll put it like that.
Okay,
Right.
so while everyone was speaking, an idea came to my mind about how life is in a continuous circle. So one thing I thought about was reincarnation and how, say, our souls get processed back. So once you reach the end of the circuit, you go back again in another life and then go back. So what are your opinions on that?
We
Can I go first?
now. We cooking.
Can I go first?
Go ahead. I can't give you.
So, let's go back
Oh, here we
into
go.
the past,
Here,
right?
here's
back
your
to
The very
soliloquy.
first,
Let's go
to the
back.
very
Way
first
back.
civilization. We all know that, human life, as we know it, started around 6,000 years ago in Africa, right? Usually with the Sumerians and the Egyptians.
Mhm.
Back then, Egypt was it was bigger than it is now. It encompassed most of Africa and all of its people in that generalized area. And they had their own set of beliefs, right? Very spiritual, very in tune with nature. And they were actually speaking on a lot of these topics, like reincarnation, spirituality, where we come from, and the circle of life itself. And how they described it is that life is a set of ups and downs, and it's continuous, a set of new chapters being unfolded, a set of opening books and closing books. And we are just along this infinite loop forever of peace and love, and how it just is, but it's perfect, right? And so even for my people, like I'm from Nigeria, and if you know anything about Nigerian Igbo people, like their original like religion was called Odinani, right? And Odinani is basically speaking about how there's a universal entity that controls everything, and it operates outside of our existence. It does what it wants, and it has lesser beings or lesser spirits to kind of govern how we live our society.
Okay.
And they were also speaking about how life is just positives and negatives for infinity, for eternity. It's over and over again, ups and downs. Life is like that's like life is period. So we can see this trend throughout history, but as we go throughout history, you can see how people start to branch off into different belief sets, into different mindsets, but underlying, you still see the ups and downs within life, even if people try to ignore them or push them down. And you can say that reincarnation is is life itself reincarnating itself over and over in these ups and downs and positives and negatives, right? So like say, if for theory, if someone dies, right, in the 1950s, they could possibly be reincarnated into 2020 in a different life, but who wouldn't be able to say, who would be able to know? They wouldn't even be able to understand because their spiritual being is separate from their physical being. And when you come to the physical world from the spiritual world, from the ether, then you essentially like restart life. So you're starting as a newborn. So you wouldn't have any infinite memories from your spiritual life. You only have your physical 3D memories and experiences in existence. So reincarnation is basically the reincarnation of your spirit and your energies, your positives and negatives, balancing out each other on and on and on forever and ever and ever, period.
On and on and on and on. Yeah, like an infinite loop, bro. Just insert
Yeah, it is
the program it. Infinite loop.
like there's this symbol, I think it's called Cerberus, not Cerberus, but it's basically the snake eating its tail, like in a circle, infinite loop, going on forever. And that's really a representation of reincarnation in life going on forever. It's very interesting.
Yo, we about to get into the immortality discussion, the Altered Carbon Netflix show where the spirit is being reincarnated to a new body and you're becoming a new person, but you have this.
That's actually very close.
Yeah, but one thing I want to ask y'all, like KVL, it's pretty much a circle of all voltages equal to the sum is zero. So like applying that to life, if there was something when you become old of age, let's say 80, and you want to talk to your younger self right now, what's something that you would ask your older self? And you can apply this to your younger self. What is something that you would give to your high school version of yourself?
Well, I would, for me, that is actually very funny. So I'd say a few things. The first thing I would say to my younger self is don't listen to anybody because everybody is stupid. Nobody knows what they're talking about. No one knows what they're talking about. The only one who knows anything is you. And not in a very narcissistic, selfish way, but in a spiritual way of you're the only one who can discern what is right to you, what is wrong to you. Because everybody has their own subjective experiences and feelings and thoughts, and everybody is different. So like for someone to say something is good or bad, like one, there's no such thing as good or bad because everything is just relative experience and how you see it or how you like it. Like it all depending on what you like and dislike, right? So like I would say, I mean, I can go deeper in that if you want me to. Restart. Basically, there's no such thing as right or wrong because everybody has a different experience and it's all subjective. There's no objective right or wrong because there's no way to define it, right? And because there's no way to define it, there can't be an objective right or wrong. The only reason people believe there's a such thing as right or wrong is because they believe it. Like you can't prove anything else other than your own beliefs. Like if you don't believe it, then it's not true. And if you do believe it, then it is true. That's the only truth that there is. So with that, I'm telling myself, don't listen to anybody because they're all wrong, because everybody's going to give you a subjective experience and it might not be what you believe. So you have to be the one to figure out what is right for you and what is wrong for you and follow that path. Like the path is a lonely one. You have to take the least traveled one. And the least traveled one is your own unique path. So that's the first thing I'm telling myself. Then I'm telling myself, get into the markets early, like learn how to trade and learn a skill that's going to add value to a whole bunch of people's lives. And that's going to spur myself to be able to like find what I'm good at, find what's right to me, and use my talents, my abilities to help other people so I can help myself and others at the same time. And then I tell myself, what do I tell myself?
Geez, you're gonna have a whole long conversation with your younger self. Like, hey, listen here, young fella. Sit
Listen
down.
here, bro. Like,
Like,
I'm about to give you the keys.
Biff did with younger Biff and Back to the Future. Like, listen here, sharp. I'm giving you the keys with the almanac. All you gotta do is bet on the racing horse, bet on the game, and you're gonna be a millionaire. That's probably what Ikenna's gonna be. Like, yo,
Yeah.
my young bull, get into Forex right now.
Yo, for real. But yeah, I'll just
So
tell
wait,
them like, yo, find yourself and don't listen to anybody else. You know what's right for you.
Mhm.
I have a question. So this is kind of
You didn't even answer my
going. Well, no, I'll get back to it. But this is going something that popped in my head. So you said don't listen to anyone else. No there's no right or wrong. Like it's subjective.
There's no right or
So
wrong for you.
yeah. So just thinking about it, when people talk about this is kind of off topic, but basic human rights
Yeah.
and saying that people being discriminatory and it's what they believe in, it's their right. So do you think that's subjective? So do you think it's just more of a want or a need rather than right or wrong?
Well, I definitely believe it is subjective because everybody has different thoughts on it. But I'm gonna go more into detail. So basically, let's look at the pride of lions, right? So animals or lesser animals than humans, they necessarily don't have like a moral compass, right? So like, what's stopping a pride of lions from like killing off each other?
The community aspect.
Nothing. There's nothing stopping them. They could easily do it if they wanted to, but they don't though, right? Now you ask yourself, why is that? They don't necessarily have like a moral compass to say like this is my family, I shouldn't eat them. They just don't do it, and that is because
I don't know about that one, but okay.
I mean, like you see, I mean, it's all like very objective, right? Looking at them, you don't, we can't define that they have a moral compass stating that the lion community will not kill off the lion community because we can even see like there's certain lions that surplus kill or just like.
We don't have.
My point in saying that.
We don't have a real life Dr. Doolittle.
Yeah, but my point in saying that is like there's nothing necessarily stopping animals from killing each other. They don't have a moral code that we can define. So why don't they just end up killing each other? And my reasoning for that is that you don't necessarily need a moral compass to be a positive person, right? I feel like that comes down to like the spiritual aspect of life itself. Like life was meant to sustain life. Like that is the point of itself. Like you can see that how humans evolve and grow and we survive and we like persevere. Life sustains itself. And when it comes down to like basic human rights and human theory, like I believe that life will figure out how to sustain itself, but everybody's subjective experience and subjective beliefs isn't what is sustaining ourselves. Like it's a part of it, but the underlying basis foundation is that life is life itself is love, right? Life equals love. Life equals like what's it called? Proliferation and growth. You don't necessarily need a moral compass to be able to understand what's good to you and what's bad to you. And the thing is, now we come into like adding multiple people. Like say there's only one person in the world, like in the entire earth. How do you know what's right or wrong?
You can feel it.
That's the only answer, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So like you feel it. Like it's you feel and you believe in your heart what is right or wrong. And if you were the only person in the world, there's no one else to tell you something is wrong. And even if there were, now let's add two people. If they both believe the same thing, then that belief has to be true because there's nobody else to refute it. But now let's keep adding people, right? The more and more people we add, the more and more diverse we get because everybody has their own individual, unique ways of thinking. Now we get into like what is right or wrong based on what I believe. And the reason why people have different beliefs is only because the time they were born and the place they were born and the people around them when they were born. That affects how you grow up as an individual, and that affects your choices, and that affects what you believe. So what I'm basically getting at, like my point in this, is that people follow their instinctive nature, but their instinctive nature is influenced by all these different factors. But on the basis foundation of it, it's basically we're going off what we feel because we don't know the future. The past doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is the present. So everything that we think is good is only because we feel it's good. We feel it, like we believe it. That's the key word. And that is not determined by, I mean, it's not determined, but that is not affected. Our feelings are not affected by outside like stimuli. Like, our feelings are internal. Like they come from within us. So that's why I'm saying like there's no such thing as good or bad. It's only what's good or bad to you. But objectively, like good and bad only exists in the subjective. Objectively, there is none because you can't objectively say that everybody believes this one thing is good and this one thing is bad. It's not that binary. So,
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but since I didn't answer Chris's last question about what I would tell my future self, but thank you, Ikenna. No, you're good. You're good. You answered my question. It crossed my mind. I was like, that's an interesting point. But what I would tell myself, I feel like a life goal of mine, an ultimate goal is because actually my one psychology teacher, he made us write what we would want said at our funerals and our eulogy. He made us write a eulogy of how we would see our life and how it would turn out and what we would want people to say about ourselves. It's really deep and makes you think. But my one main thing was to live a life that not even that I achieved all my goals, but that I went after my goals and I lived a life where I was loved and where I loved others, and I built just a good environment for myself, and I feel with that I could be content with life. So it doesn't matter what path I take. I could be in the slums, but I wouldn't want to be in the slums. But I could be in the slums. But as long as I have all of that, in my heart, I'm happy.
And one more thing, I'll literally tell myself, this is the last thing I'll tell myself, do not take life serious at all. It's a joke. It's not real.
Interesting.
Okay. Chauncey. Ikenna just made the whole auditorium like just pause.
Life is a video game.
What I would tell myself is don't listen to everything people say. Have them back it up with facts, because that's probably one of the only things that are depending on what. I'll just say always check the sources, because sometimes the sources are not trustworthy. So that means their information is not trustworthy.
Take everything with a grain of salt until you can confirm it yourself.
Right.
Okay.
And to start programming early, because like I said, I just started learning about programming and I hugely regret it because I realized that everybody I know has some type of programming information, and I was so late into the loop that I wish someone would have taught me that.
If you think about it,
you wasn't late. You were on time.
Yeah, you're on time. Like you could literally argue that you're early. You're in your 20s, bro. You have a whole life ahead of you. And if you think about it, like all past, present, and future is in the same point. So you're never early, you're never late, you're always on time. You learned it when you were supposed to learn it because you learned it at that time.
That's what I was thinking, because I was like, I wouldn't actually tell myself too much besides, my life goals. And honestly, it would be me, my younger self going to my older self, making sure I can fulfill those things. But I feel like everything I've learned or every mistake that I've gone through, they've all had a purpose. So I've learned them at the right time. So even though I've made mistakes, I've grown from it. So there's nothing that would pre-warn myself, because say if I learn, oh, this person was bad, or, oh, make sure I did this or stop this, you wouldn't grow as a person. So I feel like I've grown as a person by making my own mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Fail often and fail fast.
Fail often and fail fast. Didn't Will Smith say that?
Somebody said it.
Yeah, I think Will Smith like made it popular or something like that, or I watched a video of him say that or something. I don't even know my answers to my own questions. What would I ask my older self? If I was 80, I'd probably ask him, how did I live? What did you do? He probably wouldn't tell me, just for me knowing me. He probably wouldn't tell me, like, hey, bro, I can't tell you that classified information. You got to get a top secret security clearance or something. I probably
told you it probably changed.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I probably wouldn't tell my younger self if I was 80. But I probably just try to pick at him, see how his living conditions were, because that's something you can just see right there.
Would you be able? Yeah. Would you be able to tell if, let's say, your future person or future embodiment of your name or yourself?
Okay.
Let's say they like ran into you present day. Would you be able to tell it was you?
Besides the physical form?
Yeah. If they had a whole different physical form.
I don't know how to answer that question. So I'm guessing I'm trying to identify them in a spiritual form if they have a whole different physical. Depending on how my future may go, I probably could identify them. Everyone's different in their own way. I've heard people say I have a distinct walk. I don't know how that's possible, but
Me too.
Okay. Thank you for the confirmation, Amanda. I didn't.
No, I said me too. I have a distinct walk.
Yeah, same thing. A lot of people say I have a distinct laugh. I just don't really see it.
Chauncey, you do.
I don't know about all that.
But that's the thing. Everybody has something distinct about them. In the future, I probably could point it out. And one thing I would tell my younger self is, you're doing the right thing.
Keep doing you.
Yeah, keep doing you, bro. Keep doing you, young buck. I mean, you're gonna make it out one day. You're gonna get out of Jacksonville. You're gonna do what you want to do. You're gonna make the right decisions. Keep taking calculated risk, and but take more of them actually. Take more calculated risk. Don't be so much in a box. Either you put yourself in there or other people put you in it. Do things that you actually like to do, but just scared to do it. If you want to shoot a shot at the girl, go ahead and shoot, bro. Go shoot your shot. I mean,
that's another thing. I'm gonna tell my younger self: roll the dice. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I'm gonna emphasize that to him.
Did you pick that up from Larry?
We gotta bring Larry on. We gotta bring the podcast. But yeah, I would say shoot your shot, bro. Like, I mean, she might reject you, like people say, but at the same time, you do get that
game.
You get the repetition up. So when you do come across the woman that you want to marry and potentially have kids with, you wouldn't be scared to shoot your shot at her because the repetition is there. You have muscle memory. You have talk memory. You know how to spit game eloquently because you've been in the gym shooting. And then another thing, don't focus so much on athletics as your way to education. Do like STEM stuff that you want to do, but you feel like you're in this box where you can't get to that avenue because the internet is limitless. Like Ikenna has told us in class, like you literally don't need to go to college to learn everything. You can learn everything on YouTube and Google. We have more information at the palm of our hands than we ever before. Yeah. We have everything you want to know at the palm of your hands, so use it to your advantage. Yeah.
Well, I guess one quick question, Chris. So you mentioned sports. So my background. Yeah. I did a lot of sports beforehand. But I feel like it personally shaped me as a person, and it built a lot of character within me that I might not have learned if I just focus on education. So do you regret that in the sense?
No, I don't.
Like,
I don't regret playing sports at all. That actually made me into the person I am. I mean, with leadership skills, learning how to work with a team and different type of egos, environments, different coaching styles. Like, it actually taught me how to be able to be flexible, be able to be adaptable, learn how to maneuver with different personalities, and but still be true to myself at the end of the day, and achieve the ultimate goal of trying to win whatever sport it is. But in the same breath, I did.
Oh my God, I have one more thing.
And I'll get to it. All right. In the same breath, I did prioritize athletics a little bit more than I should have in high school. I should have, in the summers, you can still train for different sports, but in the same time, I should be doing summer camps for STEM things, like maybe doing a REU at UNF or something, or Jacksonville University for STEM related, going to more STEM conferences. But I wasn't knowledgeable about this stuff, so I was just spit game to my younger self, pretty much.
okay.
Yeah. Last thing I'll tell myself, my younger self, you have to be a monster. Be a monster. But you have to learn how to control it. And what I mean by that is like learning how to strategize, learning how to be a competitor, and learning how to get to the top of the ladder. And yeah, that's what I'll tell myself. Life isn't real. It's a game. Be a monster, but be a dragon in sheep's clothing. That's what I'll call it.
I hope your younger self know what you mean by life is a joke and life is a game. I hope your younger self know that, because that sounds kind of suicidal.
No, it's not. That's not what it's meant to be.
Hey, that's between you and you. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, he'll figure it out.
The thing about how your younger self might view it, he might think, oh, life's a joke. Life's not real. Oh,
why am I here?
Exactly.
He'll figure it
video
out.
game. I'm gonna respond.
At the end of the day, it's me. Like,
yeah, you know you. So
yeah, but yeah, that's what I tell myself. Be a dragon in sheep's clothing.
I got you.
So, thank you for coming to another Applicable Science podcast. I want to thank you for watching through the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to drop the socials now. Chris?
Follow me at tallboy_Chris on Instagram, and follow our podcast page at applicable_science.
Amanda?
And follow me on my Instagram at moonda55, and follow my business page and website, AVH Organics.
Ikenna?
Yeah, man. I already know. All my socials is the same thing. It's just Ikenna. All of them. YouTube and Twitch coming soon. I'm about to be streaming games.
Ooh.
We play Skyrim. We play Dota 2, Smite, Call of Duty.
Oh, you run Smite?
Yeah, bro. I'll be running Smite.
Oh, that's tough. Okay.
Onto your Smite sport.
Huh?
Oh, and if you haven't watched the sports and technology episode, I guarantee you will laugh at least once and be confused at least twice. So watch that episode, look for that, and watch it.
But like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any comments about any new subjects we can talk about, please let us know. If you have any comments about the show in general, please let us know. We will respond to comments. Unlike all these other people. See you next time.
Till next time.